Good morning and welcome to another episode of Motoring Middle East. And in case you're wondering why I'm crouching next to a car, it's because the wind noise today is so insane that I've had no choice but to do this, otherwise you won't be able to hear me at all. And in case you're wondering what I'm crouching next to, this is the Chevrolet Bolt EV, which is Chevy's first full-scale electric vehicle. Electric vehicles are not new. Teslas have been around for a while and people are pretty used to them. This is GM's first effort. It is a super interesting vehicle. They promise around 383 kilometers of range, about 283 miles, but in the Middle East they say it can hit up to 500 kilometers depending on what you do. That's pretty cool. The motor, as you call it, is a 200 horsepower something permanent magnet. It is about 200 horsepower. It is about 266 foot-pounds of torque and a single-speed transmission. They kind of call it an SUV, but it's more like a very tall hatchback. And I've been driving around for days, really not just to review the car, but also if understand electric cars are a viable thing out here, because we're still so wedded to petrol. We love V8s. In fact, GM makes some of the best V8s around. So can they convert me with the Bolt? Well, not at the price point they're selling it at, because this car, as it sits here, is 170,000 dirhams, which is a lot for a small hatchback. I know it's a very expensive car, and GM says they lose thousands of dollars on each vehicle ever, so that they sell. I think it's still too expensive. However, I'm told that if you walk into the dealer with the cold hard cash, you probably get it for a lot less. So with that in mind, you probably think about it as a second or third vehicle. So does the Bolt actually work? Are electric cars a usable thing? Up to me to find out. So what do I think of the looks of the Bolt? Well, it's quite a smart looking car. It's not quite a crossover, but really it's more of a raised hatchback. So calling it a crossover is a bit silly. Still quite smart looking, about the size of a Golf, if slightly taller, very pert. Some people have called it a bit bland. I think that's a bit unkind. I mean, it's an electric car. It's meant to be a normal car. And this is one of my favorite details right here, is this blacked out piece of rear trim that really reduces the height of it. It's almost like the roof is floating, isn't it? It's really quite a good looking car. However, I think people want their cars to look like Teslas and supercars, which is a bit silly. At the front there's no grille, obviously, because it doesn't need one. And here you can see the charging point. So if you, it comes out eventually, takes your pretty much your standard plugs. There are a lot of them. I don't know what they all do, but it works. It's pretty easy to get to. Sitting on 17-inch wheels, so the rims aren't too big and the ride is nice. And it's got some eco-friendly Michelin tires out here. So if you buy any cheap tires, you'll ruin the fuel economy. And if you get to the badge, that Chevy badge is really hard to find the door opening thing, but I got it eventually. I found it eventually, and it's a very tiny boot. In fact, all it's got space for is the bag that holds the wires and the charging cables. Not a lot of space at all, really, is there? Oh, and a couple of tie downs. It's a bit cramped with that, yeah. I think GM could have made a much better use of the space. Under there's basically a space for some tools. It's a hatchback, but you know, not the most expensive car in the world. Oh wait, it is really expensive. Boy, I am glad to be out of the sand. It's just getting in my eyes, my ears, my nose, and probably other holes that I haven't really discovered yet. What's it like in the back of the Bolt? Well, it's a bit like being in a small economy car, actually. It's not brilliant, if I'm being honest. The legroom is great, got lots of good legroom, good visibility all around. But my head's really high up. The seat's mounted really high up, so I feel like I'm looking over the driver. And my eye line is like here. Not quite sure why that is. There's reasonable under thigh support. I mean, the back is fine. It doesn't really. This is about as far back as it goes. There's no center armrest. My head is just about okay. Just about okay. If you were the 6-footer, you wouldn't fit in the back of this car. And you wouldn't want to travel to Muscat in it. Which is kind of funny, because I had to travel to Muscat in a pair of Bolts last year. And I'll tell you one thing, being in the back of these things for long journeys, I hated it. The fronts are fine, but the back is just kind of cramped, and I don't know, this seat just didn't work for me. And I hope you bring a book or something, because there's nothing to do back here. There is no rear seat entertainment. There is no USB sockets. There is no rear AC vents. There is a hanger for your coat. So in case you like to keep hanging your coat, that's your entertainment for all those long drives. And the plastics do feel quite cheap and nasty, to be honest with you. It is a 5-seater in theory. In reality, it is very much a 4-seater. This middle seat, I wouldn't want to be the person that sits here, and it's quite narrow. The body of the car is very narrow. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag. The front's much better, I promise. So what's the Chevrolet Bolt interior like? Well, it's quite futuristic and a little bit cramped. This is very much a tight two-seater. The seats are actually pretty comfortable up front. There's some of my gubbins down there which I'm going to get rid of. Seat fabric is interesting. It's like a really interesting luxury sofa approach. Reminds me of some stuff I've seen in the US, but I've never seen quite a material like this before. I like the contrast stitching here. It makes it kind of sporty. There's space for one water bottle down there. These plastics are for 170,000 dirhams. This is not Audi grade. This is quite GM economy car cheap. They feel pretty tough, but they're very scratchy. This texture again, very, very strange. It's like this weird mixture of pixels. Like, basically described as a pixelated dashboard. It's meant to be futuristic, but again, very, very cheap and scratchy. Hard, rock hard. Steering wheel is frankly disappointing. No leather for 170,000 dirhams, but it is quite a handsome looking unit. Let me see if I can power this up down here. I can give you a bit of light. Look at that, power straight up. So if I can see it, this basically, I'm going to walk you through this because it's very important. This is sort of your RPM meter. So when you put the gas, the electricity foot down, it goes up, showing that you're using electricity. And if it goes below this line, it shows that you're getting electricity back through regen. Now, regen is what happens when you basically take your foot off the gas in regen mode. All that leftover energy and heat, which normally be wasted at the braking level or engine braking, gets sent back to the battery. In the middle is your central big dash. It's a very nice display, actually. You've got your speed, trip meter. I'll just go through it very quickly. Tire pressure, etc. It's not a lot, but I like that they've taken the information back a step and just showed you the basics. You can, of course, do a lot of stuff in typical GM fashion. You can go to an audio screen. You can go to a phone screen. This is a bit slow. It's taking a while. Oh, there's a couple of modes here. Let me try layout. Classic. What is classic? Looks boring. Looks very boring. Yeah, I'm going to stick with enhance. And there's your options pages, but not too crazy. Oh, let me go back to vehicle info. I want to see what that's all about. Other than that, pretty much your standard GM stocks, for wiping and indicating. So the steering wheel, pretty straightforward down here. You've got your 4-way jog dial that controls the main screen, your voice commands which control, well, nothing. Nobody's ever used a car with voice command. I've been seeing it for like 9 years and nobody's ever done it that way. Call cancel and cruise control, which actually electric cars is a bit of a bad idea because you can do better on your own. Typical light controls down here, all your switches, no memory seats, because why would you want memory seats in a 170,000 dirham car? So, storage. There's your USB down there. There's a very shiny piano black. GM piano black is done. Piano black is like so 2010, guys. Electric parking brake, which comes on anyway whenever you hit the park button. So let me see if I can show you this. This gear stick works in a really odd way. So this is drive. Pull it back again for regen mode, which is the way I recommend you drive the car. And then if you want to go reverse, it's forward and to the left. So it's a bit of a weird one. I spent a good 5 minutes trying to figure it out the first time. There's 2 cup holders down here. There's a big, ugly, empty space down here. And what is that? Electric socket. I can stick my finger and get electrocuted. Main screen. Okay. What I like is that they put physical buttons. So you've got your AC Hvac system here. It's a little confusing to use, though. I don't know. I mean, this gets the fan speed up, but it's not obvious. It's collecting dust quite quickly. That's not because of the dust seals, it's because I left the door open. You've got your music, etc. down here. Sport mode, which is pointless. Why would you have a sport mode electric car? Traction control off in case you want to do front wheel harakat. And the main screen, which I believe is not shared with any other GM product. So let's go through it in order. Go to home. You've got home. So that basically is my phone. That's music, and go to Apple CarPlay. This is your charging data. This is something else, and this is music again. So there's no navigation. Again, 170,000 dirham car. Why would I want navigation? So I feel like it's a bit unnecessarily cut down. However, the charging stuff is really super nerdy and complicated. So here we go. This is actually very important because there are a couple of things you want to understand here. This is the energy used on my last trip so far. Distance traveled 300 kilometers since the last full charge, which is when the car was given to me. Driving accessories is very important. That's basically your power on the move. Climate settings is how much juice it's using for air conditioning. Now, it is 36 degrees outside, but actually it's been about 40-45 in the day. So 14% climate on a fully electric car is not bad. You may be wondering, What's battery conditioning? Battery conditioning is the climate control used to keep the battery cool. If the battery gets too hot or too warm, then it doesn't really work that well. So basically, I've been really good. Mostly used for driving, only a little bit for climate control so I can survive, and very little for the battery, which is actually pretty good. The range on this car is actually quite accurate, and if you drive sensibly, you'll do quite well on range. Technique involves how good you are as electric driver. So don't use the brakes too much, use a lot of regen to slow the car down, that kind of stuff. Totally improves your braking score. Terrain is, is it lots of hills and stuff, or is it just lots of, flats? Flats are good for electric cars. Climate settings, again, are you using it very cold, in which case it'll plunge down here. I have been using it very cold, but I don't want to die. And outside temperature as well. It's not that good. You're crazy, Chevy. Go home, you're drunk. Let's see. Graphs. I hate graphs. I'm going to skip this. That's it. And if you want to see the fun part, which is energy flow, this shows you where the power is going. Now in a hybrid, it will show you all sorts of graphs to an engine, all that. But here's an electric car. It's all just draining, man. It's all just draining until you charge it. Then you go charging. This is where you connect your power plug. So, interesting fact. It's 6 amp default. This is actually quite annoying because when you plug it into the house, you want to make it 10 amps. And then you got to go through this warning, which is a bit annoying. But then you get the full 3 kilowatt charge, which is still pretty slow. Still really slow. It goes up to like, I think 15 or 45 on the main Deva chargers. There is, I should point that out. Deva have given me a green charging card. So this is basically free electric charging for a year, I think. And that's pretty handy. So you just swipe this on any Deva charger and the car can start charging. The procedure, by the way, is shown at every Deva charger. So charging is a little bit complicated because you can't just unplug the charger. That's to stop you from somebody from unplugging your charger every time they go away because they're vandals or pranksters. You have to go in here and there's a little button that will appear here and you can press that red button and it'll actually disconnect the charger physically. The same on the other end as well, by the way. At the Deva charger, any charger, you have to basically initiate a disconnect and then only you can remove the charger, put it back in the vehicle and get on your way. But overall, it is a fancy piece of electronics and I really find it quite fascinating in a nerdy sort of way, this car. It is absolutely a science experiment. But is it a science experiment that works on the road? There's only one way to find out. It's disappointing that it's so hot today because it's making me tired. And it's a shame because I really want to tell you how interesting this car is and how exciting it is as a concept. I mean, this is the first electric car that I've driven that feels like a real usable electric car, not like a joke. Like the Tesla is great for 10 minutes. But then after it feels like you have to become a Tesla fanboy. Well, this is just a nice, solid car. It has its drawbacks, and really, they're related to how expensive it is, and GM still loses money, despite how expensive it is. It is a money-losing car, and that's because the entire floor of the car is a battery. There is nothing in common apart from the steering wheel with normal GM cars. Maybe some switchgear in there, but that doesn't really save a lot of money. It is a science project. It is a moonshot. It is the Corvette of electric cars for GM. Because they're trying to sell it at this price. And in the US, again, things get a little suspicious because the price is about $35,000. And out here, it's 170,000 dirhams. That's not $35,000. So I'm not quite sure how that worked out. But anyway, price aside, is it a good car or is it just a joke? Because the Tesla to me is a joke. I've driven it and I just worried about the range constantly. The range is like plop, 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 plop. It was like a really bad Pong game where you were always losing. And all you want to do is charge it. Now this car, it's okay. Let's see what it's like. Put in regen mode. Let's see how it goes. The feeling of electric car and the way it sort of builds speed, it's quite surreal. There's a little hum. It's a little hum the whole time. There's no engine noise. There's no way. Let me see if I can get myself comfortable here. To know that you're driving a petrol car. Right? Build speed so effortlessly and whoa! That's 100. It's not as like push back in your seat as fast as Tesla's, but it's got plenty of get up and go. Plenty of get up. The steering is quite heavy actually, which I like. It's electric steering obviously, but it's quite nice. The car is quite heavy, as you will now see going over the off-road section. So this is normally quite bouncy, right? This car is so heavy that it doesn't even notice it. How heavy? It's about 1,500, 1,600 kilos. 1,500 kilos. Normally these cars should weigh around 1,200 or like 1,100 for the size of car. 16, the ride is actually brakes, because the battery is so heavy and so low, it reduces the center of gravity. And why is that important? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I should now bore you to tears. The point of having a low center of gravity is that it handles quite nicely and keeps the car really, really stable. For a weighty car, it holds the road really, really nicely. On-center steering is excellent. Not a lot to complain about. It's not a sports car, but it is fun to toss around. And I like that the American car companies are so at the forefront of this. Where are the Japanese? Why haven't the Japanese got tossing into a corner at 80? Pretty good handling. Pretty good handling. I don't use the brakes on this car. So one of the joys of electric cars is that you don't actually ever brake. And that means you save on brake pads, because when you take your foot off the gas, the regen just slows it down. Really, really low. That's it, pretty much coming down to a stop. I mean, I don't want to go to complete stop, because I don't want to hit the nice police car in front of us. He's there for off-road use to basically save people around here. It's quick! Quick, 100! It's quick! It's quicker than some of the so-called sporty cars you've driven lately. I mean, this would demolish a RAV4 off the line. So I'm going to still at 120. Wind noise not bad. Tire noise not bad. It's a little windy, but it's got a pretty good slippery CD. I think 0.3. It's a good car. You could travel long distances in it. I mean, it's a little bouncy because, you know, it's a small car. It's quite short wheelbase, but it's not bad. So this might be the best engineered car GM makes right now. And I'm looking at you, Sierra and Silverado. What the hell happened there? Those cars are the ones selling millions, but this one feels quite nice. See how stable and rock solid it is. We're doing 120. Utterly solid. Feels like a German car. The ride's a little firm, but it's not uncomfortable considering some dangers. It's a little firm, but the shocks are a bit firm. However, on undulations, the shocks are a bit soft. So when you hit a couple of undulations, the shocks are soft, so it goes whoop. So it feels like you're going to leave the ground because of the sheer mass of energy. One thing that I like that the GM is doing is tinting these cars. So you couldn't buy this car untinted because the greenhouse is so big that it would get really, really hot. So having 50% tint has really made it much more livable. So now the big questions. Can you use this every day? Well, I have been using this every day. I haven't used my regular petrol car at all. And it's fine. There are enough chargers around town. That charging card they gave me, I use it outside, but I charge it at home. And the idea is, no, you don't charge it, you don't run it all the way down and charge it all the way up. What you do is, you top it off every day. So you come back from a meeting, plug it in, come back from a meeting, plug it in. It is kind of annoying, but so far hasn't really bothered me that much compared to going and filling up a petrol station. I could live with it. No brakes, charging, reducing, and just putting the battery back in my car. Now if you do use the skinny pedal, it will, however, get quite... This is a sport mode. I'm going to take this corner now. It does get quite drinky on electrons. Into the corner. Wow, you can actually deliver some tire squeal. It corners quite well. I mean, the back end wants to let go a bit, but apart from that, it's not too bad. Not bad. So, who is this car for? That is the biggest question. Let's get one thing out of the way straight. It's too expensive. So it's not for people who are looking to save money on gas. 170,000 dirhams, that buys you a lot of gas, to be honest with you. You can get a Grand Cherokee, you can get a Tahoe for that money. It's not for people who live in an apartment, because then you'd have to go to the malls a lot. That's where most of the chargers are. Otherwise, they're petrol stations. Who really wants to hang out at petrol stations all day? I don't. How much McDonald's can you possibly eat? Because enough people in apartments, because then they just find it really inconvenient. And you can't run a cable down from your balcony down to your electric car. If your work provides electric charging, that changes the equation. It needs to be a certain speed of charge that will be useful, but if you're in the office for 7 or 8 hours a day, you charge it well up. See, I'm going downhill and it's putting power back in. I like that it's so nerdy. It's putting between 13 and 20 kilowatts back in the battery. So I'm putting a little bit of throttle to keep it moving, but I'm just balancing it on the using power, not using power. You can't do that electric power, petrol powered car. I mean, I'm going to hit and all the charge goes away. If you have a villa, it makes sense. Basically, if you have your own freestanding house, well, then you can install electric charger. I don't know what the cost is. I'll find out from GM. Hopefully they'll tell me, and the subtitle will tell me if they found on me or not. But hopefully you can do that, and then you can have your own level 2 charger in your house. Game changer if that's the case. Because with a level 2 charger, you have your own power station, and then it comes down to about 8-9 hours, something like that. The fast chargers are really the kind that you see for Tesla. Tesla has the best chargers, but they pay for their own network, so obviously we can't share that with the non-Teslas. That's the big drawback. However, there's one advantage not having a Tesla here. Because so many people have bought Teslas, you can't always find a charging station. They can be full. However, these are regular chargers. Not many people, apart from this, there's only the Renault Zoe, which is also good, but a smaller range. So you can always find a charging point. I really like this car. I like the way it drives, I like the way it feels, and I like that it represents a future that I'm interested in. Because Tesla makes the mistake of thinking we all want electric supercars. I don't want an electric supercar. I want a regular car. And without having to have that huge need for draining the battery with big powerful motors, it's just a nice normal car. I could live with this car every day. I don't think everything is quite there yet. I don't think the price is there yet. I don't think the infrastructure is there yet. And that's the big problem. If you can't charge this car in 5 minutes, it's not replacing your petrol car. But I do like, and I mean this as somebody drives a big honking V8, I like that I'm not polluting the environment. I like that my emissions are zero. I like that I'm building a sustainable future for whatever children I might have someday. And for that reason alone, I recommend the Chevrolet Bolt. If you have the money, you need to be somebody who has the money. This is a smart, sensible choice next to your Land Cruiser or Patrol or Range Rover. Use this car as much as you can, and use those cars when you need to for fun. And on that positive note, I'm going to leave you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching my first electric car review. I'm really quite pleased to be getting into the green future. I'd buy one of these things, man. I like the idea of it. And I like that I'm not going to petrol stations. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. See you next time.